speaking of worlds radically different than our Discworld, I absolutely love the series. It's absolutely hilarious. What I love about Discworld, what Pratchett does there is, it's not about the Discworld, really. It's about Earth, but in this absolutely ridiculous type of world.
It's actually Hindu mythology, by the way. The being the planet on a turtle is Hindu mythology.
4 elephants on a turtle.
Yeah, I think that's Hindu mythology. If I remember
that I get. But what I love about Discworld is that it's taking this ridiculous concept for a world, and he's really using that to poke fun at everything on Earth and culture and society as we know it. And I love that about it. So it's a fantasy world, but at the same time, it's not really. It's more about our world and how ludicrous things are.
And they're short. I think the longest one is 400 pages.
Yeah, they're short, quick reads, but so many of them just are making you laugh all the way through.
But they also make you think.
Exactly, and that's what I love about it. Is it makes you? It's using humor to really get you to think about things like. That's hilarious.
Not talking down to the person who's reading it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the biggest problem I have with a lot of things.
Terry Pratchett is something else.
The way he presents it is you never know, is he for or against what's being said? You don't know just with the way he presents it, and so it gets you thinking about the very idea to begin with.
And I feel like that is very important when you're presenting ideas in a story. You cannot pick a side. You cannot, as a writer, it's because when you do that, you insult your reader's intelligence. You're almost like I feel it like it's arrogance if you're telling me this is what reality is. No, fuck you, no. Like, don't tell me that. Immediately someone tells me they know the truth or they know the way, I just instantly distrust them. And
he's a very clever writer. I mean,
such a clever writer.
You guys were talking about the Big Bang Theory earlier, and Pratchett explained that already in the first book.
Isn't that Color of Magic?
Yeah. So basically, the sea turtle in space thing. It's like a bunch of sea turtles coming together to mate.
Yeah, the Big Bang.
Big Bang.
And it's a literal Big Bang.
Oh my gosh, fantastic.
And Vines is probably one of my favorite characters.
Guards the best.
What was the name of it? Who has read the Silmarillion here?
I read parts of them.
Okay, what was the name of the trees? The 2 trees that of light.
Oh gosh. Oh man, I don't remember. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then what you're talking about reminded me of the concept of Angolians. The spider that came from the depths of darkness and sucked all the lights from the trees.
Oh man.
Yeah, Tolkien was big
Treebeard's my
favorite. Well, because with that different concepts. None of this is what I necessarily have settled on. Was what if this was what if there are multiple sun trees across this planet and they don't know of each other and they're different than cultures and whatever built around these trees. But also what if you're in the dark, so far in the darkness zone where you can see the space and stars, and so you have all this lighting from the cosmos, but also maybe bioluminescent lighting, and what kind of weird, if they're humans but they don't really have sunlight, they'd be kind of more like the movie The Descent, with these underground blind creatures that are effectively just humans and are albino by this point. Just weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also, I was thinking too of what if this was some experimental planet type of thing? What if this became a fantasy that bridged into science fiction, where they discover that these trees are artificial constructs created by some other alien species, and this is all an experiment, and how do you then go from there? Or maybe the planet's alive and the trees are batteries absorbing energy from space, and at some point the planet will wake up, and then the people have to figure out how to keep the planet asleep so that they don't die.
So,
I don't know.
So in your storytelling, do you always start from your storytelling? Do you always start with a premise like that, or do you start with characters?
Kind of both. So I start with questions. So with the Immortal Soul trilogy, and it's usually a mishmash of questions. And so the Immortal Soul trilogy is ruminations on sibling relationships, on religion, and just like structures that affect people's lives, and what happens if the leadership of an organization, of a structure, is corrupt, but the millions and millions of lay people are not, and like authentically believe in their religion, and it helps them be good people and make sense of the world. But it's kind of like what you're saying. Like, I'm not trying to give a stance on like religion is bad or religion is good. I think it depends on the person. Everybody's individual, but it's, if you have a crisis of faith, how does that work out? How does that play out for people? I've thought about that a lot throughout life, and so I start with questions like that, and then I started thinking about characters. Like, what kind of characters can I create to help explore these questions, and then what kind of world can I place these characters in to explore those questions, and then what kind of plot can I create that will help push those
dig
questions.
into those questions. Yeah, I love your phrase in there, crisis of faith. Like, if you're talking about religion, like, because I feel like, especially in the millennial generation, a lot of writers have been pushing religion bad, and especially like in the grimdark thing, it's like, okay, religion. They always phrase religion like it's just like quintessentially bad,
right?
And it's like, actually, it's not that straightforward.
No,
because it's like a lot of people. There are a lot of good people that follow religious doctrine, but it's not just like. You can't carry like the one examples and use that to like frame an entire thing. So it's like, if you're exploring a crisis of faith, but then you're asking questions on both ends of the spectrum that allows your readers to think rather than pushing them towards any direction of any stance, basically, on what religion is and what it serves in the human experience in general, because for everybody it's different.
I think you can see a lot of value in religion and organized religion, and having community to rally around, and shared beliefs and traditions that are good things. It just it comes back to like, what happens when the people at the top are corrupt, and if that becomes known, how does that affect all the people down below and their beliefs? And one of the main characters is partially inspired by my mother and the conversations we have, because like I've said before, I was raised Catholic, and she's still very much firmly Catholic and firmly involved in her church, and I'm much more questioning, and I'm not like opposed to religion at all though, but like we have really good conversations about our shared values and how we might view things differently but kind of come to the same conclusion at the end of the day. And then I kind of put that into the book as well, and so it's really kind of fun, because I will pitch some ideas to her about like the crisis of faith thing, like Mom, how would this affect you if this were a thing that you like had to think about? And she gives me a lot of good feedback from that context.
Yeah, I think when it comes to religion and philosophy like that within the books, what's really important for me at least is that the writer is not preaching whatever their viewpoint is. And at the risk of, bringing the attack back on me, I think Brandon Sanderson has actually done that quite well, especially within the Stormlight Archive. Because you got the one character, Yasna, who's very much atheist and, anti-religion in that sense. And I think the way he wrote that character was where she never brought the debate up with others, but others would be preaching at her, and she would respond to it and place her arguments against it. And they're like, why are you doing this? Like, you brought this up with me. Yeah. Like, my position, right? And I think that Sanderson has done that really well within his books. And it's something that I honestly appreciate. Because I don't know, there's something about Mormonism that turns them into fantasy writers. I don't know what that is. Well, that's a longer discussion. I kind of get it, but that's a longer discussion. But the point is, like, knowing he is a very active member of the Mormon community, and seeing him present the subject of religion within his books, and having that dichotomy and really exploring both sides of that question and doing it in the way that he has. I love that about the way he writes it, because you know, it would be so easy, especially in that community, in my experience in it, to really come out as preaching, rah, God is good.
Yeah.
But no, what he does is the foreign religion within the book, like it's a big part of the world building, but he's effectively balanced the two sides of that question and brought that into a debate without coming across as preaching.
Yeah.
Which I really like about that.
Yeah, and actually to his credit, I remember this is either Oathbringer or Rhythm of War. He was talking about how one of his, beta readers or editors or what have you was talking about Yazda specifically, and having the assumption that this was some atheist perspective that he was then putting into the book as kind of a caricature. And he was saying, no, these are actually the questions that I have come up with as a challenge to my own faith. And so I'm using Yazda as a way to explore that, questioning my own faith. And these are the kind of questions that someone should actually be asking about their own religion. And I actually really appreciate that, especially for somebody who's devout in his own faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the aspects I really loved about it. And I feel like, at least in the booktube community, I come up from a bit of a unique perspective of being very familiar with his religion. And so seeing that in it, I think I kind of have a unique perspective on how that's been manifested, knowing where he's coming from as well, which I'm sure there's many other booktubers who may have had a similar experience with other authors who share their religious communities or old religious communities, depending how it may be. But I've read a lot of books, and I haven't read any authors who have religious aspects to their books that's dealt with those particular questions in as balanced and an effective way as I've seen with Sanderson. It always seems to be one extreme or the other, and so I really appreciate that. And it's probably a big part of why I've come to love his writing so much, because I feel that balance there.
So I'm just I think it's hilarious how Drew has tied everything back to why Sanderson is a great writer.
Because he is.
So we're going back to the start.
I think his ideas are better than his actual writing is the problem I'm having these days.